myself to it. There we go. Happy Sunday night, everybody. It's Round of Shots on February 2nd, 2025. Kevin Hale here, Terry, Doc, Dave-O, and the new guy, David Sisk. Welcome. Give Coach Sisk some love for making an appearance tonight.
That won't last long.
Counting on it. On this show, I'm always looking for a soundbite or a little controversy. But we are streaming live on our Facebook, X, YouTube. Again, I hope everyone had a try, or at least some of you had a good weekend. I know some of you all, the weekend totally was ruined at some time around 11 p.m. Eastern time last night. But you know what? We're gonna get through this. We're gonna help get people to step away from the ledge, and kind of just reflect on where we are as a program in regards to Kentucky men's basketball. But we got to start with some good news, with something that just has been a really feel-good story, Doc. Kentucky women's basketball. Great road win. They 90-some points, and then you had a player who just went out of her mind on the floor. Doc, give us the summary.
Georgia Amore, 43 points, career high. She ties the career highs of two greats of the past, Ryan Howard and Jennifer O'Neill. We're kind of joking that if she had hit a couple of those free throws, she could have had the record for herself. But she has been a shining star for this team all season. They are now, I believe, 19-2, 8-1 in the conference, really in a competitive spot for one of those top four seeds in the conference tournament. Moving up in the rankings, Coach Kenny Brooks just tickled to death, said they played almost as well as they could play. This was probably the best he's ever seen Georgia Amore play. It's been all good, and they've been doing it with a Iron Man 7-man rotation, essentially. It's going to be interesting to see how far this can go. He's been kind of downplaying it, saying that all these other teams that he's been studying has been able to be effective with a 7-man rotation. We'll wait and see. I think 7 more games left in the season, regular season, before we head into the real thing.
And we mentioned this last week too, and this is not a knock, but that real beef of the schedule is what, the last 3 games, Doc? Fair?
Yeah, they've got LSU at home and South Carolina on the road, Tennessee at home. How would you like to finish up your conference regular season with that gauntlet? I don't know, but man, they've come through every single time. They continue to get better. That's the thing. I think they're continuing to get more comfortable playing with each other. Brooks, he's been really low key. He's been very hesitant to take credit for anything. He says this has just kind of grown organically. I don't quite believe him, but that's just kind of the modest, humble guy he appears to be.
Well, we'll take that. Terry, what was your take on the women's? Or there you go. Let your board do the talking.
I got Georgia on my mind. I mean, she was just straight balling out, and I know
Georgia, sing it, Derek.
Not all of us can sing, Kevin. But no, I mean, just watching what they've been able to do in the SEC, which is maybe not as tough on the women's side, but it's still pretty formidable. And if they're able to get 2-1 to end the regular season, that's a pretty good step in the right direction for what this team can do in the postseason. So, quiet as it's kept, the better of the hoops teams may be on the women's side, maybe in historic Memorial Coliseum.
There you go. Dave-O, what you got?
Yeah, I mean, I've said time and time again, this women's team is unbelievably fun to watch, and that was proven again today on the road against a very good Oklahoma team who just dropped 100 on LSU at LSU. And I believe they came back. They was down like 24 points to LSU on the road, got within 1. So this team is damn good. still have time to jump on that bandwagon. That's for sure. I think one of the most impressive things were they had a lot of foul trouble today, especially early, and they was able to still hold on to win that game. So, Georgia Amore, what else can you say? It sucks we only got her for a year, but I'm going to enjoy the last, hopefully 12 to 14 games with her with the tournament run. So, yeah, it's impressive.
Coach Sisk, what you got, man?
Well, it's impressive. New coach comes in, can do this in year one. So, you just build for the future. And it seems like when you're in these tough conferences and the SEC's tops and everything, if you can build momentum, that means all the world. Because it is tough to fall off and then try to build back. Because every you don't drop one spot, you drop 4 or 5. So to do this and when you've got a player or two in year one that can carry you, that's a huge deal. Maybe almost like Rick Pitino's Jamal Mashburn. When you can come in and have somebody like that to come in early and really make a difference. And so, other recruits now see a player like that and say, it's legit, that a good team and a good player, and I want to be a part of that.
Yeah, the Doc, you've said, they seem to be getting better every week, and that's always a good thing.
Yeah, Kevin, one of the things we really need to be cognizant of is that the women's tournament is a little bit different structurally than the men's, and that the first 2 rounds are hosted by host schools. If Kentucky can somehow get up into that upper echelon, and I think they're targeted to be on track for that. If they can go ahead and host, then you're talking about 2 games in historic Memorial Coliseum,
so
which obviously
a 4 seed gets that through a 4 seed, right?
I believe so. I'm not sure where the actual cutoff is, but I think the top 16 teams would be able to host.
They should be bumped up too after the last 2 wins. I don't see no reason why they can't go up to a 3 at this point.
Yeah, and if they, with the way the schedule is playing out, the regular season schedule is playing out, if they stay competitive, make those games at least competitive, and if a loss, and then do their part in the tournament, then I think they should get a top 4 seed. So,
Doc, how many years has the SEC women's side have they done that where they host?
I believe it's quite a while, because I remember Mitch Barnhart went out of his way to try to get Kentucky as a host side for Matthew Mitchell and his teams. And so even when we were talking about the Sweet 16 and the late 8s, I remember Kentucky hosting that. But as far as the automatic host for the first 4 rounds, I'm actually not quite sure how long that's been in existence.
I gotta bring this up, Doc. How sad is John nowadays not being able to stick Cal with the tough questions? We'll get into that later. Our man John.
I think my relationship with Calipari has been greatly exaggerated. It's been kind of propagated through the rumor mill to where I think I've been given more of an exalted status, if you want to call it that, than I truly deserved. Otherwise, I know people are just trying to goad me on, try to say the things that they've always wanted to say, and then I'll be the one that take the hit. I used to do it in my younger days. I'm much too wise for that right now.
When Brad Calipari comes back 30 years from now and coaches is announced as head coach at University of Kentucky, they'll have you stand up and wave like Alan Cutler did.
Because Doc, us Asians will live to be 150. So
hey, we hope we'll be around during that particular time. If I can outlast Cutler, that'll be a big feather in my cap. I don't think anybody's going to be able to do it. He's going a mile an hour, doing well. We ought to tag him for one of these pot shot rounds where we can really fire some good questions at him. He'd be good for it.
All right, we'll make it happen. All right, so what is on the ladies' plate this coming week? They got
they've got an off week actually, so that's going to be great. They're going to be able to rest and recuperate and just hopefully keep things going As Coach said, momentum, huge thing. Just keep winning, baby.
Just win, baby. All right. So what else we got? We have Super Bowl, Terry. Super Bowl 59, Licks, if you're going to say it by the Roman numerals, Lix, right? It's Licks. Kansas City versus Philadelphia. This is what, the second time they're playing in 3 years. What you feeling, thinking? Because that's next Sunday.
Yeah, as a 49ers fan, I'm not interested in the outcome of the Super Bowl.
At all.
I'm going to be bitter. I'm going to watch the commercials and everything like that. I have seen Mahomes up close and personal. So I'm out. But I just want to see a fun game. I don't want to see that. What was that? The Patriots and the Rams a couple years ago. There was like 10-3 or something ridiculous like that. You know, score some points, but I don't know who's going to win. It'll probably be the Chiefs and the deal they have signed with the devil.
Yeah, and all the referee friendly calls that. But you know, when just step away as maybe as a fan and look at what Mahomes has done during his career. It's actually pretty remarkable. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. Every year he's played, hasn't he either been in the AFC Championship game or a Super Bowl?
His worst finish has been losing the AFC Championship game.
That's his worst.
That's his worst. 7 years, 7 straight championship games.
That's crazy.
Which is insane.
Yeah, I mean, you're getting in that Tom Brady echelon. Doc, Super Bowl, what you thinking, feeling?
Yeah, I'm rooting for the Chiefs for no other reason than the fact that Saquon Barkley did me wrong in my fantasy league. You know, I was up big in semifinal game. I had a very, very comfortable lead. You know, the guy, I think he rips off, 2 50-plus yard runs. I'm out of there. So Eagles down with Philadelphia. Let's go, Chiefs.
Oh, okay. Davo, what do you say? Oh,
I'm a hater. Fly, Eagles, fly. Simple.
I'd like to see the Eagles win.
And fly, Eagles, fly. You know, it is what it is. Don't like them, can't stand them. I'm a hater. It is what it is. Certified grade A.
Coach, what you say?
I grew up since I was 6 years old, a Redskins Commanders / WFT fan, but for the last 30 years, it's been WTF. And it's weird. I'm 58 years old, and the last good team that Washington had was 1991. They won a Super Bowl, and there wasn't a gradual slide. I mean, they went off the cliff overnight. Daniel Snyder had a lot to do with that.
Was that Williams? Was that Doug Williams? Who was the quarterback?
Doug Williams. Yeah.
Right.
So, I mean, it's been that long. And so I'll be honest with you, as a fan of theirs, I have no built-in animosity to Philadelphia because I was glad that they had a good year. I mean, there's no sense when you're 2-14 every year, there's no sense pulling against people. But having said all that, I'm not Mad Dog Russo. I've got Kansas City fatigue. And, I'd like to see the Eagles win, although I never pull for them. But I just want a good game. I hope it just isn't decided by some phantom call at the end of the game. I think that's what we all want.
Agreed. Give a quick shout out, Michelle Morton. Hey, Michelle. Hope you're doing well. Your son got another great brain scan this week. Sorry about that. Life is good. That's keeping things in perspective.
Yep.
You had people and Michelle thinking about you. Thanks for hanging with us tonight. Yeah. Always appreciate your support. It's these reminders in life that, what happened last night isn't end all be all. Now I know it's easy for me. It's easy to say that. For a lot of people on social media, you watch and you still, they're still struggling with last night, but we'll get that in a second. I was looking at topics, and Coach, you brought up one. Luka the Mavericks trade Luka Doncic to the Lakers for Anthony Davis. There were some other players involved too, but that was the main trade. Dave, since you brought it up, what were you feeling? I mean, AD is, he's a legend in these parts, and he's a future Hall of Famer as well. So what are you buying or selling this trade?
I told you the weird thing about it. I'm on 2 different DM threads. It's just all Kentucky people, and they were on a ledge, after the Arkansas game, obviously. And it's just like that. Somebody says, "Hey, Luka got traded to the Lakers," and the whole conversation changed. And it was almost like the good Lord looked down on Kentucky and said, "Let me spare your grief for a little bit and throw you off track here." It's great. I was watching the new. I guess it was NBC News that was on a while ago, and about midway through, this is one of the stories that they have, along with everything else, on the main news, and they're saying this is the most shocking trade of any sport in history. And I guess they're Babe Ruth. I don't know if it's Babe Ruth-ish, going from the Red Sox to the Yankees. So it is crazy. From everything that I've heard, there was a huge contract that Mavericks were going to have to go for this summer. And Luka's habits off the court evidently are not the best. He doesn't stay in shape. He gets heavy. That's a lot of money to invest. It basically comes down to somebody that they didn't trust. They said the Lakers had no idea this was going to happen. They called them up and said, "Would you trade Anthony Davis for Luka, and we can make some other things happen?" And they said, "Absolutely, yes." So, you look at them, and I thought the makeup was kind of weird. If anybody watched them play in the playoffs, you got Kyrie and you got Luka, and they're both on-ball guys. So Luka would go for a couple of plays for 7 or 8 trips, and Kyrie would go stand in the corner. Then Kyrie would get the ball and go for 7, 8 trips. And Luka, and I'm like, how can these guys coexist? And they did. And Luka wasn't a great defender, but now they're saying, Anthony Davis is a 4 in the NBA. Didn't want to play the 5. You got Derek Lively back there at the 5. Kyrie gets more looks. It'll be interesting to see. But it'd also be interesting to see how long LeBron's around to enjoy it. He's been wanting to play with him. So a lot of interesting things here, obviously.
Terry, I'll let you go. What you feeling there?
As a Lakers fan, I was shocked. I was like David last night. We were all kind of drowning our sorrows, and I just kept seeing tweets. Shams got hacked. Did you all see Shams got hacked? Because I'm like, what? And then all of a sudden, the official ESPN account is like, here's the trade. I was just shocked because, you hadn't heard anything on either side about this. But I think moving forward, the Lakers need another big, right? But I as a Lakers fan, I kind of like it, even though I'm a huge AD guy. AD watches over me right there. But for the Lakers, I like it. I like it. You transition to Luka, another big name, because that's what you have to have in LA, right? Like you can't. The Lakers are not for plucky underdogs, so you need another dude to kind of be the leader of the flagship franchise in the NBA, and they've got that. So whenever LeBron rides off, it's Luka in LA. Now, if he can be a little bit more disciplined in LA, we'll see. But he's a superstar, and that's what the Lakers require.
Davo, what are you thinking?
Yeah, didn't that break at like 12:45 in the morning or something like that?
It was late or early, depending on your clock.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I was still kind of aggravated from the Arkansas loss, obviously. So I was just up scrolling on Twitter, and that broke, and I'm like, holy, I'm like, okay, this is random. And of course, I'm like, everybody has, Shams got hacked. I mean, it tweeted out, and then in like 4 minutes, it had like 4 million, views already. So I'm like, oh my God, like if he got hacked, this is going to be like insanely cool. Early April Fool's joke to Twitter, but it wasn't. But one thing that I found very familiar or very crazy about this is Luka Doncic was owed a supermax of like $345 million, and because he's going to the Lakers, it dropped down to like $134 $4 million. I mean, Crimea River, right? But still, I mean, that's a win for the Mavericks organization. And I think Dallas now has a quiet, mediocre to good big three now in Kyrie, AD, and PJ Washington is doing really well in the league. So I think Dallas came up on top on that one.
Doc, final thoughts on that?
Yeah, certainly breaking news at the time. And I heard that it's kind of comparable to it, like if the Bengals had traded Joe Burrow away, it was that significant. And then the irony or the sadness about it was that it looks like that deep down inside there was major like weight issues or health related issues that prompted all this. It kind of brings back memories of Melvin Turpin, who played for the Cats back in the early 80s, who very, very talented 7-footer who just couldn't control his weight and his eating habits. And essentially it cost him his NBA career. I mean, here you had a 7-footer who could shoot like nobody else, and yet trips to McDonald's, Kentucky Fried Chicken was just too much for him. The temptation was there. We can all understand, can't we?
Yeah.
Finger licking good, Doc. You know that. Isn't that what this is? It's still saying that. Do they say it?
I believe so.
Okay. All right. That line bombed. Thanks. All right. One more quick take before we get into Kentucky men's basketball. I got to give a shout out to Coach Pitino and what he's doing at St. John's.
Mm-hmm.
That they're playing as good as anybody right now. This is I want to say. I had this stat. Potentially taking his. He will. It'll be his 6th team to an NCAA tournament. The guy's one of the greatest college coaches ever. And for better or worse, he will always be my coach too. For what he did, during his run here. Terry, Coach Pitino, St. John's, you buying or selling this season with?
I'm buying. I don't think that has ever been a knock that Rick Pitino can't coach, right? It's been the other vices in his life that have got the headlines, but the man can flat out coach, and he can. The thing is, his teams generally are better than the sum of their parts, right? Like, taking Providence to the Final Four, giving one of the great Duke teams all they could handle. You're talking about the Leitner shot. So he's on that short list of. He's done it all over the place. He's done different styles, from up and down to grinded out games at Louisville to, whatever they're doing at St. John's. The man can flat out coach, and you can't take that away from him. It's one of those things. Had he not had the NBA detour, where would he be on the all-time college win list and Final Four appearances and championships? Had he not detoured, and then had he not detoured out of Louisville. But I mean, his resume is up there with all the greats. He's on that short list.
Doc, anything?
And he's doing it at 72 years of age. I mean, how impressive is that? And yeah, X's and O's. You just have these guys like Pitino, guys like Bruce Pearl, guys like Kelvin Sampson, who are just great on the court. Eddie Sutton was that way. You wouldn't want to go up against him in a one particular game series.
Davo, Coach Pitino.
Yeah, Coach P, as a 10-year-old, broke my heart when he left UK and went to Boston. And then, of course, he ended up at that school that's down there. But time passed, right, and the guy is legendary, right? It doesn't surprise me at all that he's doing what he's doing at St. John's. I firmly believe St. John's is going to win the Big East this year. And I also believe that we will probably see him in the second round of the NCAA tournament. Because that's just the way the committee does it.
That's how TV and committee and TV is made.
So I think we're going to have a chance to boo Pitino again come the NCAA tournament. And hopefully come out on top this time.
Coach, what about you and Pitino?
Well, I got to be around the program some when he was there, his years and the Tubby years, and I truly believe that if he would have stayed at Kentucky, he would have won as many national titles as Coach K. and I have no doubt about that. I mean, he had the thing. You got to look. He left right in the middle of the 3-year. I mean, they're one overtime shot away from winning 3 in a row. And I mean, he had his fingerprints all over that one, and he was just getting it started. I mean, he was the guys. I mean, you look at what that roster looked like when he left. I mean, it was amazing. You know, the guys that he was bringing in, and he said that's the biggest regret of his life. But the thing that it always impressed me was, and not everybody has it. You just can't get this. Is he really knew how to drive the players. He had such drive himself that he knew how to get squeeze every last drop out of every player that he had and get everything out of them. Because I'm telling you, when the season was over, those guys were spent, you know, every year. I mean, he got it was like the horse falling over as soon as they crossed the finish line. I mean, that's what he did. So it was he's got a gift like nobody else, man.
I'm there with you. All right, we got a couple minutes before our guest comes on for our shot segment.
Can I tell you a quick story?
Go for it.
Patino.
Sure.
Right quick.
Yeah.
We had Ron Mercer in AAU.
You have 15 seconds. Go.
Anyway, Ron, we go to Kentucky Louisville game. Ron doesn't get the ball. They're not throwing it to him. They're playing
Ron
4-on-5
Mercer?
on offense, yeah. And
Yeah.
they still win by 30, and he's not getting the ball. So Coach Benson, who I was with, Coach Benson, asked him after the game. He's kind of mad about it, and he says, "Why are you not getting the ball? They're freezing you out, Ron. They're freezing you out. You're not getting the ball." And he says, "Oh, I know." He says, Coach Patino told the team, "Ron doesn't play defense. Do not throw him the ball until he learns to play defense. He was going to play, but he won't touch the ball." So they said, sure enough, they did. We played 4-on-5. He never got a touch. Well, he ended up playing defense.
Is that
David,
the
do you
one-
think that 1996 team was the greatest Kentucky team ever?
It may have been the greatest team anywhere ever when you look at what was out there. I mean, that was amazing. They just toyed with everybody. And, man, you talk about Big Blue Mist at its best. Everywhere they went and played, there were fans everywhere. I remember going to Knoxville watching them play, and you would have thought you were at a UK football game. I mean, they were everywhere, outside, inside.
Yeah, we talk about traditionally how difficult it is to go on the road in the SEC, even in the podunk schools. But that team went on the road. They took no prisoners.
Oh, yeah.
They destroyed everybody in their path. It was amazing.
I remember that game, Dave, the one you're talking about, them freezing Ron Mercer. I think that was in Freedom Hall, right?
No, that was in Lexington.
Oh, that was in Lexington. What was the one where I just remember Derek Anderson dunking on somebody, and I want to say it was at Freedom Hall that game. But anyway, okay.
Yeah, he dunked on Nate Johnson, got horizontal, and yeah.
Whoa! What? Hey, 1 second.
There's a familiar face or person, girl.
Hey, can I do breaking news?
You can.
Sacramento is finalizing a trade to send De'Aaron Fox to the San Antonio Spurs, and Chicago Bulls Zach LaVine goes to the Kings.
Oh.
So, yeah, okay, there you go.
You heard it here first, fans. All right, it is this is second guess we've done with this new segment. Anyways, this is one of my favorite guys. I've been wanting to meet this guy. His personality, everything about him is Kentucky sports. Dave Buzz Baker is in the house. Dave, how are you, sir?
Good, guys. Listen, I'm very non-technical. Can you see me okay and everything? Oh, yeah. There I am down at the bottom of the screen. If you can see, it's a very homemade setup with like
it's okay.
I don't have a stand or anything, so I'll sit up and make it look better.
You good? We're good. Good.
Well, if you want to meet up sometime, just come out to the station or something, right? Or you guys come up. I don't know where everybody's located. We'll all go out to lunch, and Huang's got plenty of money, and we'll let him pay for it.
Sign me up.
You know, when you told me that we had Buzz Baker on, I thought you meant Buzz Williams. I was ready to talk Texas A&M, man. I don't know if I'm not prepared for this.
Texas A&M and a lot of self-help, right? That's what Buzz talks about. Yeah.
Now, let me tell you real quick. So, as I'm planning this show or planning our night, I always do, reach out to the guys like who's available. And Doc was like, I'm covering the women's game. It might be tough, if you got somebody else, go for it. And then he's like, did you have someone lined up as the guest for the guest segment? And at the moment I didn't. Then I came back. I said, I've got Buzz Baker. I got Dave. And Doc literally, dropped
fresh meat.
He was like, I'm there. I'm good to it. So.
I would not think of myself as one of those hard gets, but I'm glad to be here.
I'm likewise. All right. So this, again, with this segment, you're the focus. I'm totally ripping off PTI's 5 good minutes. You're on with us for, give us 10 to 15 minutes, whatever.
Go ahead.
All right. Appreciate it. And then all the guys are going to take a turn throwing some questions, comments at you, and let you pacify them, answer.
Okay.
Them. All right. Who we got? Let's go with Terry. Terry, what you got for Buzz Baker?
Mr. Buzz Baker, TB here from the internet.
Hey, how you doing, man?
Doing great, sir. I just wanted, before we get to the result of last night's game, I'm all the way here in Iowa, so I'm watching on TV.
Iowa?
Yeah, I know. It's a long love story.
Did you go to Clark jersey retirement today?
I watch it on TV, and I'm doing it for. I got this for my wife. But
what
was the environment like in Rupp Arena, kind of from the time the doors opened until the ball was tipped? To quote Luther Vandross, what was that excitement, or what was that like?
I'm glad you told me who that was, because I probably hadn't listened to a lot of Luther Vandross. But listen, I'm good with it. I told Carl Ravitch right before we went on the air last night, I said, Carl, I've been here 40 years doing this stuff. I said, those kids that are lined up outside, I said, that's the longest line I've seen at Rupp Arena since Jimmy Dykes was named one of Lexington's most eligible bachelors. And he just loved that. It was a great atmosphere. Crowd was great. I didn't get into a lot of the other stuff. But everybody was ready to go. They were ready to go for a big game. I mean, Cal got out late, and I don't know that he would have, but the rest of the coaching staff, they came over and said hi to us at the broadcast table. All 3 of the players came over, not only slapping fives and bumping fists, but they were hugging, and I mean, they were just ready to go. They were very relaxed, and it was. I've told people before, and Tom and I were talking about it on the pregame show. My personal feeling is that the best atmosphere I've ever been at in Rupp Arena was that Sunday, which was the final Sunday of the regular season, when the Unforgettables beat Shaq and Stanley Roberts and LSU. It was nationally televised game on Sunday afternoon.
Is that Chris Jackson on that team too? Was it?
I don't know if he was on that team.
Maybe not. Okay.
But it was a special atmosphere last night.
Doc, go.
Yeah, first of all, thanks for doing this, Dave.
Sure.
You've been doing this for a long, long time. In fact, I put you on the Mount Rushmore of longevity of active media people with UK. You and Cutler and Larry Vault and Dick Gabriel, you're up there. So having all that experience, have you ever seen a Kentucky team that has been so unpredictable in terms of like point spreads? I mean, here we have this team that's favored to lose to Tennessee by double digits, and they win, and then they come around, they're 10-point favorites to Arkansas, and then they end up losing the game. What's with that? What is it with this team?
I'm gonna help you out here, John. So you and your brother are both doctors, right?
Well, he's a real doctor. I worked with teeth before, orthodontist.
Well, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with teeth. We all need teeth. So your dad was an engineer, right?
He was, yes,
and
sir.
I saw your post the other night about the scholarship that he has endowed at UK, which I think is a great thing. So I would remind you that all 3 of those things are things that are measured by metrics. They're not things that are measured by emotion. And yeah, I think this year's probably been a little bit more unpredictable than most. I think a lot of that has to do with the portal, with NIL. But I mean, I don't think last night's loss, as disappointing as it was any more unpredictable than Tuesday night's win in Knoxville. Because I don't think, if people are being honest, there wasn't a handful of people that gave him a chance down there without Creasa, without Butler. And, you get 90 seconds out of Andrew Carr. So, yeah, it has been very up and down. I would say this, though. Under normal circumstances, I mean, if you look at last night, I think I'm right about this, but I believe every point Arkansas scored in the second half was scored by one of the guys who was here last year.
Pretty damn close, for sure.
Yeah, right. So they wouldn't have done that as freshmen, but it's very rare for Cal to have people come back, right? And what is this record now? 15-6, 14-6, something like that. I mean, if it wasn't a veteran team, it might be south of that. I mean, remember, simply, I'm going to say, based on talent and the unknown about Pope, that Kentucky was picked to finish 8th in the league and Arkansas was picked to finish 4th, right? So, it has been unpredictable. I think it's going to continue to be that. And as you mentioned, point spreads, Doc, I would just remind you that unpredictability is why so many people have so many big buildings out in Vegas.
I hope that answers your question, Doc. All right, Davo, what you got, man?
Buzz, how you doing there, sir?
Good, buddy. How about yourself?
I'm doing well. So I am from Shelbyville, Kentucky. Seeing as how we're shouting out where we're from.
Let's go.
Home of the late great Mike Casey. Collins High School is actually right down the street from me.
Yeah.
So
did you know my man Mitch Bailey?
No, I claim Shelbyville. I've only been here 3 years.
Okay, he was Hubert Ray Polly's baseball assistant coach the last time they won a state championship. I believe it was about the time that Charlie Hurt was playing over there, but I digress. Go ahead.
Okay, that's okay. Hey, I'm history. Bring it to me. So whenever we're talking about the teams that you've seen over the year, have you ever seen a fan base just so quickly adopt a brand new team? I know Cal brought in a lot of teams full of freshmen, new teams every year. But have you ever seen a fan base adopt a team? I don't want to call them misfits because it sounds kind of bad. But have you ever seen a fan base adopt a team so quickly? Like
they're not misfits, but they are three-time defending champs of the YMCA league, is what they are. I mean, here's the thing about these guys. I don't think these guys ever dreamed that they could play at a place like Kentucky. Maybe Carr did, maybe Butler did, but the other guys, no. I mean, and at the end of the day, if you look at it objectively, and this isn't making excuses, it is what it is. I mean, how many pros do you think are on this team?
Maybe one.
I don't think there's a first round pick on this team for sure.
I don't know that there is one. I mean, Cal has all these guys. I'm gonna tell you something. Do you think either of those or any of the three Kentucky guys are can't miss guys in the pros? I think Z's probably got the biggest upside. Thiero, I think from a size standpoint, is a tweener, but I think he has just gotten so much better since last year. And you know what? It hadn't been easy for DJ Wagner. Hadn't been easy for him because of his dad, because of his granddad. But golly, that kid works. And he doesn't make excuses, and he just took the game over in the second half last night. So, I think fans adopted the Patino bunch, when he came in because of everything. And I'm going to be real honest with you. I think fans took to Calipari when he first got here after the Billy Gillespie experience. I mean, and it's different. I've always said this. I thought that Nick Saban was a perfect fit for Alabama. I thought Cal, when he first came here, was a perfect fit for Kentucky. But those two guys both went about their business in entirely different ways. And Pope is much different than Cal. But I think he's been the perfect guy at this time. But it'll all come down to the success they have in March eventually, as to whether or not you consider it a success or not.
That's fair. Coach Sisk, Dave, what you got?
Since you've been around it for a while, I do like the historical aspect. Let me ask you this. We discussed it a while ago, and I'll ask you about another coach too.
Sure.
If let's start with Eddie Sutton.
Uh-huh.
If he had not gotten in trouble and he would have stayed, what do you think his career would have been like at Kentucky? And also, if Rick Pitino would have stayed at Kentucky for the long haul, how many national titles do you think he would have gotten?
I don't know about national titles, but let me just say this. To go to the Rick thing first, I think he could have been right up there with Mike Krzyzewski in terms of the success he had. I think we've heard him talk about it a lot, that maybe his biggest professional regret was leaving. And he's told this story a lot, and it's ironic that one of y'all were talking about this trade. Oh, my gosh. I'm sure you guys all love and watch the great love story, which is Animal House, right? And so one of the scenes in Animal House is when this little boy is sitting there in his room. He's like a teenager who's just finding himself. And all of a sudden, Mandy Pepperidge falls through his roof. And he looks up and goes, "Thank you, God." And that's what De'Aaron Fox has got to be saying today, being traded to the Popovich San Antonio Spurs. Oh, my gosh. Are you kidding me? I mean, what a great place for him. And, you know, there's a long history of people having successful careers there. And so I'm happy for him. And I think you just got to be in the right place at the right time. And I've said this, and I'll say it again. I've said it publicly. I think before his career is over, and he's coaching his backside off this year as Rick, but I really think he'll end his coaching career sitting on Mark Pope's bench. I just think he has that much respect for Pope. That would be a kind of full circle moment for Rick, because a lot of the guys who mentored him when he grew up did that kind of same thing.
Oh, I like that take. All right, Dave, we've got, what is it, about 15 minutes left of the show.
You're good.
Could you stay with us?
Sure, whatever you guys need.
All right, well then let's do this. Let's just, you know, we've given you your 15 minutes on the show, so let's make it more of a panel here. So I get to ask some questions, and then everyone.
Do these guys not let you ask questions? You just set up the guests and make sure that the live stream is up, and they put their name up on the front of the masthead, and then you're just the worker bee. Is that what it is?
Yeah, they, you know, with these guys, it's not about having round of shots on the front of their jersey. It's about their name on the back.
Oh, there's no question.
Yeah.
No question.
All right, so let's do it, Terry. We've let Buzz talk for a little bit, and let's give his voice a break for a second. But Terry, I'm gonna go to you about last night. You know, leading up to it was a big deal with sports pundits, with BBN. Granted, we should have been the game of the what do they call it? The on ESPN, the
Game day.
You know, all right, whatever. They can.
Hold on. Can I stop you there for a second?
Look, see, I can't even control my own show. There you go.
I mean, seriously, really?
What we should or should?
What you think or not, or who you root for? You got North Carolina and Duke.
But that's one of potentially 3 games they're going to play.
How many people? I mean, seriously.
All right.
Outside of Arkansas and Kentucky, do you think we're interested in Arkansas and Kentucky?
You know, I think maybe a little more than you thought, because the whole Cal v Kentucky.
There's plenty of stuff on Netflix if they want drama. You know, if they want basketball, you know, you can even go to Hulu. You can go to Lifetime for Women if you want to get drama. You know, they have a show on there every hour about women that hate men. I mean, you're right.
Probably a few in our chat that feel the same way about men.
And you know, Pope said it's you know, it's all about the drama. He said, I like the drama. I get it. I've got 3 daughters like he does. I mean, it's something every day, all day. But I mean,
Well, but here's the thing:
regardless
Duke is
of what you think, Duke and Carolina is Duke and Carolina, and so you got a Kentucky team that has played well and is doing well against an Arkansas team that's 1-6 in the conference. I mean, they ain't setting the world on fire.
But it was still Cal versus Kentucky. And there's the thing. I get it. Probably arguably the greatest college basketball rivalry is Duke and North Carolina. But that outcome in that Duke Carolina game was really kind of expected. Carolina sucks this year. They're on the verge of getting rid of their coach. They're not in the same. They're not even going to make the NCAA tournament.
They're not going to make a move on Hubert this year, not as long as Roy's sitting in those stands.
Well, I heard his buyout's only like $1.5 million or something like that. But anyways,
listen, if somebody wants to buy me out, they can do it for half that.
Half that. Okay. Now, Cameron,
right
what was
now,
the question?
If you're watching out there, come on, I'm good for half that.
So again, leading up to last night, Terry, the pundits, had their say about how BBN should react or greet Calipari, and BBN had their takes on what they were going to do and all this stuff. I thought, Terry, leading into last night's game, Calipari was arguably the one with the composure. I think if there was one soundbite he had before the game was that he referenced that it was going to be our biggest game of the season, which turns out based on the crowd. I watched it from home. The crowd was crazy. They were electric.
He wasn't wrong, right?
He wasn't wrong.
As soon as he went to Arkansas and the schedule was out, what did everybody do in BBN? We circled that date, right?
Yep.
My whole thing was, look, Cal does his best work when it's us versus them, us versus the world. And so it was a master class last night. It was just a master class. We were, as Kentucky fans, we were up here, and he kept Arkansas. He kept them playing, particularly the three guys that he took with him from Lexington to Fayetteville. They didn't get flustered at all. They knew what they wanted to do, and for stretches it appeared like we didn't know. So I tipped my hat to Cal. I got some brushback because I'm like, I have felt we've gone a little overboard with the Mark Pope love, in as much as you can't get rid of all 15 years of Coach Cal. We've all said the last 4 weren't great, but you can't throw out everything. I simply said
last 4?
Last 4 or 5 of Coach Cal.
When was the last championship?
Well, 2012.
That'd be 12.
Dave, just
I like the pushback.
At $9 million a year.
Right. No, I understand. But, short of the Final Fours and everything like that. But you have to talk about that kind of stuff in its totality. And I just don't think we did. And he put on a master class, and he could point at the Raptors like, I put 4 of those up there. Fair. And so that was my takeaway from the game, was he was able to navigate the drama that Dave talked about. And a lot of Dave's on the show tonight. Anyway.
See, I disagree with you, Terry. I think if I was going to look back at it, I don't think that Kentucky, and I'm not going to second guess Pope because I love Pope, but I don't think they were focused on it enough. I think those guys came in here and they were pumped and they were ready to go. And forget about Cal. I think maybe the thing that got overshadowed was just how much this game meant to Adu and to DJ and to Z.
That's a good point.
And those were the guys that did it. The other stuff was just, it's like the dang Springer show. I mean,
yeah.
And to the Kentucky guys, and it's not their fault, they weren't involved in this stuff before. Mm-hmm. So, the guys that were out there in Utah or Carr at Wake Forest or wherever these guys were, I mean, I just don't think and I'm not saying that anybody missed it or anything. I just don't think they understood the magnitude of it. And there's 2 ways you go about it as a coach. It's you either emphasize that magnitude or you really downplay it. And at the end of the day, it's easy to go ahead and give these hot takes, as you guys say right now. But at the end of the day, the whole deal is going to come down to, is Mark Pope with this roster able to advance these guys further in the NCAA tournament? And is Cal going to be able to win out and get into the NCAA tournament? Or the chicken man down there can get all kinds of pumped up about an NIT championship?
I would say probably likely NIT. Doc, or switch to you, Doc. Just summation of leading up to last night.
Well, I'll try to answer Dave's question there. I think the main narrative with this Kentucky team right now is injuries. They're not going anywhere if Lamont Butler is not going to be a big part of the rotation health-wise.
And Doc, let me ask you a question. So I haven't talked to Mark about this, but just listening to him. So his post-game comments were last night, we're looking at this thing over the next couple of weeks, and then we're going to have to make some decisions.
Yeah.
It sounds to me like it's an injury that they're trying to see if with rehab and everything, they can heal it to get him through the end of the season, or they're going to have to do something surgically. Am I off base on that?
That sounds right. Now, of course, I only work on teeth, so that's my expertise. If it were a dental injury, I'd be able to give you a little bit more of a definitive answer. But no, from a medical standpoint, that was exactly what was going through my head at this particular point. I was holding out hope that Pope, and you may know this a little bit more than I do, he's never been very, very open about injuries at all. Yeah. Other things, he's been a little bit more direct with the media, but whenever anything about injuries come up, it's always like, well, maybe, possibly. He'll make a little joke about it to kind of deflect it. I was hoping that maybe he's just kind of lying to us that coaches normally do anyway, right? They don't want to tell us.
I think what's happened this year is you've obviously got the SEC student athlete availability report.
Yeah.
Which holds them more accountable for that. I don't have any problem with any coach, not releasing a lot of information to prevent giving an opponent a possible competitive edge. But I think what he does, I think it's hard to say this about a guy. Is he 50 now? But I mean, like in the big time world of athletics, like in the post-game media last night, somebody asked him about Creasa. And I mean, everybody knows he's already had the surgery and everything. And he turned to Deb Moore, the great sports information person, and said, am I allowed to talk about this? I think he's so involved with what he's doing from day to day that he doesn't know what he can say or not say, and then what he should say or not say to protect the kid's privacy. I will say this, though, John, right? And I wonder if you agree with me or not. I mean, when we talk about this drama, I mean, leading up to this, with Cal, it's been something every year, whether it's PJ Washington or the guy that's with the Lakers now and his mystery foot injury, whether it was Ennis Cantor was going to get eligible or all the stuff that was going on with Z. The one thing I like is that they're just, except for these injuries, there haven't been anything like that with this Kentucky team this year.
It's all been so cryptic, but I've learned with Mark Pope that he's a completely different person after the team loses. I mean, he looks like he's punch drunk up there on the podium when compared to all his other friends.
And he's mad. He's genuinely mad. After that Vanderbilt game, I can just tell you, he said to some folks around him that he needed to take a few minutes before he started answering questions.
He admitted himself that he's going to be a lot better coach answering questions from the media 24 hours after a loss than he is immediately after.
That's right.
But it's interesting to see the comparison and contrast between regular jovial, I'm joking with you, Pope, after a big victory versus somebody who just got their butt kicked. You'd like to see that in a coach. You want somebody who's mad, who's upset.
DeMarcus Cousins was always and continues to be one of my favorite UK players. I don't want somebody to be, oh, shucks, we'll get him next time or something after they win or when things go bad. I want somebody to have the reaction that Cuz does when things go bad.
But unfortunately, they're not taught to do that, right? Don't these players, they've got a script that they're adhering to. At least all the ones that I've ever talked to have always been just party line.
Not Cuz.
I've got help for us, guys, and we always look for that one person to show up in our chat that might give us really good advice. Hogs by 90, stage 3 of grief, bargaining, sit on it.
Block them.
No, okay, that's we are. There's a lot of people in grief mode after last night. And here's the other
Do
thing.
you really think so?
Well, I'm going by social media,
And I'm not banging on you or anything.
No.
I mean, there were a lot of people last night that were talking about they were disappointed at the way Cal was received. Really? I mean,
Oh no, I'm not talking about those people. I'm talking about the people that literally have lost their mind over last night and go at. Well, let me, real quick before Dave, you give us your quick take on Dave O.
Just once again, leave it up to Cal to ruin a really great week, right? The ladies are on fire. Big win versus Alabama. They had a big win, which should have been after a big win over Arkansas. The tennis team beat Louisville. The gymnastics had a great win over
Georgia
Auburn.
Amore had 43 this afternoon against Oklahoma.
Yeah, and if Pope needs a point guard, maybe call her Brooks. But look,
oh my God, she is so good.
But look, I mean, we talk about losing sleep over basketball games. I don't do that, but I was very aggravated. I probably stayed up to 2 a.m. last night, and my wife almost sent me on the couch. So, but other than that, look, I told my dad that this Arkansas Kentucky game is going to go one of two ways, right? We're either going to get the Arkansas team that sucked all year leading up to this game, or we was going to get the Cal team that had them super motivated and they play out of their minds, and we got the lighter half, unfortunately. So,
and what did Cal always say when he was here? People always play out of their minds when they play Kentucky. I was watching a game about a week and a half ago, and Big Z played 3 minutes. 3 minutes.
Yeah. And he hit that dagger against us whenever we got within 6 with like 5 minutes to go or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just whatever.
Coach Sisk, your quick take.
Well, I think we all ask ourselves several times last night, how in the world is this Arkansas team 1-6 in the SEC? But the take on Calipari, there were two things. Number one, that was the calmest I've seen him coaching. And I've been used to the John Calipari just screaming all over the gym and screaming at and
hearing him over top of the TV broadcast.
Oh yeah,
yeah. And just last night they were even so. Somebody makes a bad play, and it's just he was calm, and there was no going off, and he's not going off on kids, and he's not turning around screaming at Chin Coleman. There's none of that stuff going on. So that was one thing. And I was going to say it was one of the best games, and I've been as critical of him as anybody is coaching over the last few years. I felt like he overcoached a lot. He dissected everything. I think his teams played tight because he dissected every move. He started to do that last night, and he did some. They started out with emotion that they ran, and it looked modern in the first half. And the ball's going side to side. They're ball screening and rolling and picking and popping with Z, and the ball's not sticking. And in the second half, they changed it a little bit. They changed it up some. It got into more isolation, but he knew where his mismatches were at. And I had texted in the first half when things was rolling, where's Floppy? Where's Floppy? And, well, we got it in the last 5 or 6 minutes when he wanted to try to run the clock out. But I thought he coached a really good game. But like I said, and I think David talked about it.
Well, help me out here a second. Who's Floppy?
You remember the play? They call it circle action, the floppy play.
Yeah, he would either do floppy or horns. Yeah. Those were the two calls that he made.
And it didn't look like the John Calipari Kentucky offense. It looked modernized in the first half. But I just really that was my take from him last night. And you guys talked about it, just kind of how he took the pressure off and kind of enjoyed it a little bit, but took the pressure off the kids. But in such a game like that, I think that was the calmest I've ever seen him in that type of ball game.
Well, I would say to you just real quick, first of all, you talk about Chin Coleman. Had an outstanding suit on last night. I mean, it was a black suit with some red pinstripes, and Chin always tries to be Mr. Fashion, wearing those flat bill hats, those snapbacks, and he had the suit was probably cut like 2 inches shorter than it should, so it could show off his red socks. But somebody got to him, and Coach, I'd be interested in hearing you say this. I mean, it looked to me like all they did the second half was just put the ball in DJ Wagner's hand and kept doing it until somebody could stop him, and nobody ever stopped him.
Yeah, they went, and that's what I'm saying. They went. They knew where the mismatches were at, you know, and they had a couple different places across. Tiero was a monster the second half. But like you said, Wagner, and, you know, we talked so much about Calipari. There were 3 players that played at Kentucky last year, and nobody ever really brought them up. And they ended up scoring 52 points between the 3 of them. And they were all really good, man. And you forget how hard Big Z is to guard that pick and pop. Man, you cannot hedge on that ball screen because he pops out, man. You cannot help. You better switch that thing in a heartbeat, and then you've got a mismatch. But, man, he was just – every time he popped, and you thought every shot he shot was going in.
And to the Calipari people that don't like him, the way Thiero played last night and the way he carried himself on the court, and, Coach, you get this, it's just the difference in normal maturity between a freshman and a sophomore. I mean, he was just, you know, when he would come out for warm-ups last year and everything, I mean, he was tighter than a tick. And last night, he wasn't cocky, but he was confident. He's done a really great job transforming his body in the offseason. And obviously, they're a much better team when they got Boogie Flan. But, you know, those guys found something that worked, and they didn't try to outsmart themselves.
It's phenomenal, his improvement. You remember when he signed and everybody said, well, Calipari's just doing him a favor for the old man.
For the old man, that's right.
Yeah, and that was it. And, man, I'm going to tell you what. You look at him, and, my God, he's the first player that gets off the bus. You know, he's the first player that runs out on the court. You know, he plays. And he doesn't look like Tarzan and play like Jane. Man, he's the package. He really is.
But the thing about it is whether he plays in the NBA or not, he's going to have to develop an outside shot, because from a height standpoint, you know, he's kind of like Goose was when he came out of college. You know, he scored 40 plus in that championship game, but he was kind of a tweener. But it's just great to see that. And for the people that don't like what Cal did, nobody ever got to see that because very few people were ever around for 2 years.
Well, good point. All right. We are at the top of the hour. So if you can give me just a few more minutes, I do have another take I got to throw at you guys.
Okay.
You know, one of the things, and I'll start with you, Terry, one of the things that, you know, BBN had a problem with last night was former players, Cal's former players, giving Cal a shout out at, you know, and then BBN lost their mind over a former player, you know, giving praise
Just say it.
Yeah. And then you had Shepard who wore the shirt.
Oh, that's what I thought you were talking about.
Well, I'm just several of his former players, but then that one, the Shepard shirt, drew the ire of BBN, and where I've seen people like, I'm taking my autographed jersey off the wall, and him. You know, this is my take. As a fan, I'm not a fanatic. I don't lose sleep over games. I enjoy the games. I love talking as we are, but you know, Kentucky basketball does not dictate my life at all. You know, the one thing I do think still with BBN, Terry, is that there's a lot of people in our fan base that just feel entitled. And you got someone like Reed Shepard. Yes, his parents, former players at Kentucky. He grew up a Kentucky fan. But once Shepard got good, really good, McDonald's All-American, his end game became the NBA. Kentucky was just going to be a stop until he got there. This delusion that our fan base thinks that Shepard was going to be a 3-4 year player because he's a Kentucky kid, that's not the case anymore. NIL changes everything. They want to get to that next level. Is it wrong for Shepard to not give love to his coach?
No, I mean you remember when we were very much anti-Patino, and all the guys that played for Patino didn't buy into that. Those guys love their coach.
Right.
We want them to be connected to the school and the school only, but they love their coach, and I don't see a problem with that. That's just my 2 cents. I didn't think it was what I saw was anything out of bounds. I just thought that that's just the normal way. Like it's not a street gang, right? Like, you know, you can wear other teams' colors, right, and still be a Kentucky fan. That's okay. That's my 2 cents.
And I think, Doc, for the fan base, if during Cal's time, all those 5-star kids that he brought, at least 90%, it wasn't because of the name on the front of the jersey. It was because of Cal. He just happened to be here at Kentucky. This notion that that those kids are more, their allegiance will always be to Cal.
We've said many times on the show that relationships are everything in life, and their relationship was with their coach, Calipari. To me, especially during the one and done era, these guys were no more than just mercenaries. They were just coming in. They saw the end goal as the NBA. Kentucky was just a stop for a lot of them. They were here for 5 months out of the year, and then they were out of there. Right. And I missed out on, Dave. I hear all about the good old days when I talk to Oscar Combs and Cutler and Vaught, and
they can't even remember the good old days.
They remembered that they could actually get to know these guys over the course of a period of time, if not 4 years, at least 3 years or so. And that made a big difference. Of course, the other thing is the way that UK has structured the protection over these athletes now, where you can't have any access to them at this particular point. So, yes, in answer to your question, Kevin, I think it's always been overblown. But for everybody who is just outraged at Reed Sheppard wearing another shirt, there are probably 5 other people who think exactly like we do, that, hey, it's no big deal. In fact, we cheer for guys when they're at Kentucky. Once they're out of here, yeah, we'll look in the box score occasionally and see how they've done. But our allegiance isn't with them after they leave Kentucky anyway. We're Kentucky fans. We're not one and done fans.
Okay, Doc, so I'm going to give you just an example on the other side. If you go and look on Twitter today and search the aforementioned De'Aaron Fox, De'Aaron Fox is all Kentucky.
There's exceptions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing I would say is I've had a chance. I was here to cover Jeff and Mark, and had a chance to be around Reed, and was able to help out with some stuff and some other guys that have gone to the league. He's the nicest guy in the world. I don't want to speak for anybody else, but I think he may have gotten a call from mom and dad right after that and said, dude, put a shirt on that says Cal, that's got Cal's picture on it, instead of an Arkansas shirt.
That's fair.
And that's just a you thing. And then to be completely honest, I can't remember the guy's name now, John. Who was the guy that had been in the NBA that was the workout guy?
Oh, yeah.
You know who I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do.
He and Reed had like a mind melt. They worked together multiple times every day, and Reed has talked about what a difference that guy has made to him. I mean, Cal was the guy. I think you could make an argument that Reed Sheppard had one of the greatest freshman seasons in the history of Kentucky basketball, and he started one game.
Yeah, for that reason, I think he should have worn a picture of Calipari on his shorts, on the backside of his shorts.
But I can't remember. That assistant coach's name is John, and Cal brought him in. He'd been in the NBA forever, and he was one of those workout gurus. And I mean, he worked. I saw him work for hours with Reed, and it just paid off. And listen, I get all that stuff. I don't have a problem.
He's selling all his cards.
Who is this?
His son, nobody is saying Reed was awesome, but I'm selling all his cards. He didn't like the fact that he's wearing the Arkansas shirt.
Well, if you have cards, don't you sell them? See, I don't get hung up on this stuff. You know, I like the Dixie Chicks music, and when they started going after George Bush, I mean, that's okay. I mean, I like Lady Antebellum, and when they went to be Lady A, I didn't stop listening to them. I don't understand it, but you know, people just get too into all this. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
that's what makes BBN special. That's what delineates us. You got to take the good with the bad sometimes.
I don't think it does delineate us. I think every stupid, crazy fan base is like that.
By the way, John Welch was the coach.
John Welch, that's a great call. Thank you. That's exactly who it was. I mean, you had Bobby Hurley pull his team off the court last night, which we've seen Cal do before somebody rushed the court.
At Arkansas.
That's right. He got thrown out of Arkansas.
Ironic.
That's right. You had the Texas Tech game where nobody knew the kid got thrown out like 2-3 minutes into the game for headbutting somebody, and then the coach went crazy, and he went out. And then God love his heart, even though I loved him and he was a great friend. I mean, when Mike Leach locked, Craig
James'
son in the shed, there were people defending. I mean, what are we doing here?
That's classic. All right, Dave, real quick, Dave-O, your take on the BBN meltdown. How have you seen it? And
I would say the only one that kind of made me a little irritated was Reed. Just because he is such a big Kentucky boy, not to mention his dad, was a roommate with Mark Pope. So I think that's why most people were kind of the most frustrated with that. The rest of it, I mean, they're still kids, right? And social media is as big as ever, and that's just what they're going to do. So the mute button and the unfollow button works. So just go ahead and do that, and just let them do their thing, and just keep on cheering on, the Kentucky Wildcats that's here now.
And are there any of us that have ever made a social media post that we wished we hadn't made?
I make that every day.
Somebody was going back and forth on Facebook or something last night, and my wife wakes me up in the middle of the night, and she said, I answered that guy, and then I deleted it. I mean, it happens.
Yeah.
Okay. Coach, your take on the social media meltdown.
It goes back to Nick Saban, what he used to say, tell his players, you've got freedom of choice, but you don't have freedom of consequences.
That's right.
And I think that, look, if you're a player and you wear an Arkansas shirt, and I'm not blasting him. But if you do that, if I was in that spot, I would know what was going to come with it. And
he's smart enough to know.
Right. And I would have tried to give it some thought. Now, let me say this. If he does that, that's fine. But I'm going to say this for Big Blue Nation. Their response to me is fine. If they don't like it and they're upset, more power to them. And, that goes with it. Now,
yes,
I'll say this on the one and dones and the feeder program of being a AAA club for the NBA. I think that was one of the things, the sticks that really rubbed Big Blue Nation raw. And I know covering them, it rubbed me raw. And the greatest day in the history of Kentucky basketball was not when 5 guys got to the first round.
Thank you.
The NBA draft. Not at all. Not in the top 10, not in the top 100. So you have these guys coming in, like you say, and they're 1 year. So you get put out, you lose to St. Pete's, and you lose to Oakland. And
the Uber driver.
Yeah, a bad Kansas State team and teams like that. And then they turn around and say, oh, man, it was a great year. We got 3 guys drafted or what have you. And the thing was, to me, you see these guys come in and they're 5 stars as freshmen, but for the very vast majority of it, they're not playing close to their ceiling in 1 year at Kentucky.
Because they're so young.
Yeah,
they're so young.
They peak when they're 23, 24 years old, but they get better and better. They would be better as 21-year-olds, obviously, as 18-year-olds. So that kind of gets you back to the Caleb Wilson thing. And I was talking to a coach about this before, a couple weeks beforehand, and he said, look, I wouldn't, the only freshman out there that I would blow all this NIL money on would be the Bansa. Everybody else, I would go get into the portal and get two guys, get two older guys. So that would be a big, to me, that's, a thing. I know we're off a little bit different here, but that would be a big thing to me is that, and we're going back to the Calipari deal of all these one and dones, and you've got all these $1 billion worth of NBA contracts or $3 billion or whatever it was. And the last couple of years, you did not see the results. You saw 2-8 the last 10 games in a postseason. And I think it just really it was a stench with Big Blue Nation. So if they respond that way to me, they've got every right to do it.
And Coach, I want to bring up one other thing. And I think that you have hit the nail on the head, which is another reason I like coaches so much. Remember, Cal got himself jammed up early on when he said they didn't bring me here to win SEC championships. They brought me here to win national championships. And then all of a sudden, once you weren't competing for those SEC championships, that narrative changed to we're making a generational difference in the lives of these players' families. And they were. And that's to be celebrated. But as Pope said, that wasn't the assignment. Pope said he understood the assignment. Yeah. And that wasn't the assignment when Cal came here.
I live in Tennessee. I don't get to go to Rupp. So the games I get to go to every year are Vanderbilt, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, Alabama. Those are the games that I get to go to.
So are you going Tuesday night?
I'm going Tuesday night.
Okay.
Oh, nice.
All right.
Cool.
Yep. So the SEC tournament to me was special.
Yes.
I think the people in Bowling Green, in Hopkinsville, and Paducah, and places like that, the western end of the state, and there's a ton of Kentucky fans in Middle Tennessee. I can tell you that. This is special to us.
Sure.
You get to go there. Mm-hmm. So I said this. I hope that somewhere along the line that John Calipari changed his SEC plan, his strategy, because the SEC tournament strategy was play on Friday, and then David Sisk can mow his yard at 10 o'clock on Saturday morning. Wow. Stay for the weekend. That was the SEC tournament strategy. And I don't want to – I would like to spend a weekend in Nashville. I would love to do it, and I've not got to do it in years, and I've been to every one of them. So I hope they can start making runs in the tournament because there's some of us that it's important to.
Yeah, Listen, you brought –
I got hit by one of my daughters lives in Nashville and has been killing me about whether or not I'm going to be coming down. It's like, well, it kind of depends. So I get it. I think that's a great take.
Coach, you brought up, Cal's one and dones and that talent. The one thing I've hated, whether it's our fan base or just anybody, when they make the stupid statement like, all that talent Cal had, and he only had one championship. Again, he's relying on 17, 18-year-old kids to ball up during the season. Those kids that went to the NBA, I mean, those kids' upside was tremendous. So, yeah, they're in the NBA as all-stars, but they were not NBA all-stars when they were at Kentucky. They were studs or stars that players that the potential to exceed at the next level is there. That's how it is. All right.
And I would remind Tennessee fans all that because they would get on me. You got those NBA guys and Tennessee beat them, and I'd say, listen, they weren't NBA guys at that time. You had 22-year-old grown men going up against 215-pound post players who were 18 years old for Kentucky. And a lot of them were supposed to be seniors in high school that reclassed. So that was a big difference.
Yeah. Yes. I used to say it was like back in the old days when we would send like our best 17 and 18-year-olds to play in the Olympics or in the World Championships, and they were playing against 30-year-old Russians who were walking back to the locker room smoking cigarettes and swigging vodka between times they were on the court.
How do I actually top that soundbite?
I mean, that's the truth. I mean, you look at them. I mean, Listen, I think the Big Z is, according to reports, kind of in that group as well.
We just lose Kevin. Oh,
I thought he just bailed on us because I said something so preposterous.
All right, we're well over the 50 minutes. Buzz Baker, if I'd have known you had all this energy and time tonight, I'd have had you on at the start of the show. Now I know. Now you're going to get the call. Stay tuned.
Right, but it's got to take place at some place where if we're not all in the same place, then we're going to have catering, and Doc is going to provide it. Not only for me, but for all of you, and especially Coach down in Tennessee.
Well,
Yeah,
Terry Brown and I better get a first class flight. That's all I know. None of this Southwest.
That's the only way Doc travels is first class now.
Yeah, the only way that's going to happen is if Patino shows up on Pope's bench. If that ever happens, you guys remember this time.
Oh, you
we'll
remember
do
this
it.
because it's
We'll have a
gonna
get
happen.
together.
this is recorded, Doc. This is recorded.
That's right.
All right, Mr. Baker, hold on. This is where, as we end the show,
Yes.
I give everyone on the panel, everyone on here, a final shot, their final sport take, life take, whatever.
Okay.
You'll be last, and you'll
Okay.
hear everyone. So Terry, TB, bring it.
Shout out to Caitlin Clark, Iowa women's basketball legend, getting her number retired there at Carver Hawkeye Arena. As I said earlier, the second most famous brunette from West Des Moines, Iowa.
Who's
what
the
she's
first?
done. My lovely wife is from West Des Moines,
Look
Iowa.
at you.
There we thank you. So what she's done in the short couple of years has just been remarkable. So shout out to Iowa women's basketball. And Kentucky should take a note. You actually can retire numbers. It is something you can do. You can honor players. You can.
Doc, final shot, sir.
Yeah, I got to stick with Calipari. Now, I don't have the man crush on Cal that Terry Brown has, but I did enjoy the time with him while he was here. I rooted for him. I'm one of these outliers that continue to root for him. He came in here yesterday and he said all the right things. His outward demeanor was one of humility, but inside, you knew he had to be given the Patino finger to everybody up there on the podium. He was saying, we weren't your Super Bowl. You were our Super Bowl. We came in, we kicked your ass. We ruined your weekend. How great is that? I was happy for him. I was crushed about the loss, but I was actually happy for John Calipari.
Let's see how happy you are for him in March.
There will be no rematch.
There will be no. Real quick, I got to ask. Cal came in. I have to admit, I have not watched a lot of Arkansas games this year, but he came in last night. He was slim. There's no.
He's
health
been on the
issues.
juice. There's no question.
Okay.
He was and I don't mind the juice. I mean, I think it's making people healthier. But when he was here, he would always come and Doc. I don't know. Doc does have this man crush on him, but he may confirm this. He would act like he's running on the treadmill, and he would come out for every news conference with his hair wet and have this towel around his neck, and it was just I thought it was an homage to the WWE. So I don't think he's out there pounding the pavement in Northwest Arkansas and putting in miles every day.
Okay.
But I'm glad he's healthy.
Look good. Davo, final shot, sir.
Yeah, I'm gonna shout out my high school. Is that okay? Can I do that? This is random. I'm gonna shout out Atherton High School. They just dropped their 2025 football schedule, and for the last few years, it's just been about how soft their schedule has been. And they have just added Manual High School to their schedule, Central High School to their schedule, and North Odom High School to their schedule, which are all great programs. And we just got two. I guess the transfer portal works in high school now.
Let's go.
But we just signed. We don't sign them. That's illegal as hell.
No, they sign. Go on and say it. Trinity, St. X, they all do it. So go ahead.
So we just accepted two football players from Cal Christian Academy. Both of them coming in with high Division I offers. One of them from Georgia and the other one from Florida. A 6'3", 195-pound corner, and a 6'2", 245-pound running back. So shout out to Atherton High School. We get a brand new field and everything this year, so I'm excited.
So
Dave-O,
their
tell the
NIL
fellas.
budget is pretty good.
Dave-O, tell the fellows who the girls basketball coach is at Atherton.
Mr. Wayne Turner.
Wayne Turner. It's his 5th year as the girls coach.
I'm not gonna lie, I totally fanboyed out whenever I first went to the game and saw him, and now it's just like we're good friends. Like, what's up, Wayne? Say, what's up, Dave? So yeah, sorry.
He was on with us last week, and we told him we were going to come over and tailgate one night.
And a shout out to Atherton High School's field hockey team. Let's keep that going.
Let's go
for my
and
young
track
what?
too, right? Track too.
And she's doing track. And my oldest, she starts her college season this coming week with a scrimmage.
Let's go
at Aurora University outside Chicago. So yeah,
very
go
cool.
ladies.
Coach, final shot, sir.
I would say CATS, cats. Dave. So I would say to Kentucky fans, the Big Blue Nation, just keep being you. That's what I would say. It makes it special from an individual who lives in Tennessee and grew up just right outside of Knoxville. As good as their basketball program has been, 90% of their fan base couldn't tell you who they played next. It's more about spring football practice. And if you go into Alabama and Mississippi and those places, in a lot of those places in the Deep South, men's basketball is third behind baseball.
Yes,
so I thought that Nate Oates and understanding from me, my daughter went to college in Alabama from somebody that lives not too far from Alabama at all. He threw a subtle shot out there when he in the post-game press conference when he was here, and he said, I love this Kentucky. Congratulations on what you got. He said, I love places that actually care about basketball. And you remember him saying that, and I went, oh, man, that was a dagger right in the back. He's wanting a new arena at Alabama, but the bottom line is they're uneducated. A lot of these fan bases are uneducated in basketball. They can't talk about the history of what their teams have done in the NCAA tournament. You talk about 92 Duke or 98 Duke or 97 Arizona or or go back further than that, 75 Indiana. And you these other fan bases, they would be lost. They couldn't tell you who any of the referees are. It's one thing I loved about going to Rupp Arena. They'd stand outside in the old days to see who the referees were, and some guy would come in and they said, you screwed us back in 74 against LSU. And it's just different. So that's what makes it great, and that's what makes it Kentucky basketball. Just keep doing the same thing. Don't change.
Like Kendrick Lamar says,
let me give you a good one about how that happens. So in 1996, the Mark Pope year, we're doing the games and everything. Still happy to have my Mark Pope ring on. So in the Final Four, it was Kentucky, Syracuse, UMass with Cal, and who am I missing here?
Is it Mississippi
State?
Mississippi State, of course. That's the reason for the story. Bunch of my buddies in Lexington and Central Kentucky got their Final Four tickets from the Mississippi State Athletics office because they didn't use their full allotment, because everybody was interested in the fact that baseball season had started in Starkville.
If you were a college basketball fan in much of Tennessee, Georgia, Mississippi, and Alabama's changed a little bit, but you can still say to a degree, you're like the Maytag repairman. You're the longest time.
All right. Buzz, you've heard their final shots.
Yes.
Give me your final shot.
This is an easy one. Today was Groundhog Day. Oscar Combs saw his shadow, which means there's 8 more weeks of basketball.
8 more weeks. That's classic. All right. Man, go Cats.
I'm going to say this. If you're a Kentucky basketball fan, those podcasts that he did with
weren't they good?
They were incredible. They were great. And they go back to the history.
Yeah.
Oh man, go. If you're a Kentucky fan, if you've never listened to them, do yourself a favor.
And give him a shout on Twitter. Send him a message. He had a fall back about Thanksgiving. Got some surgery, but we got him back on the mend now. He's up walking around and doing some things, but he'd love hearing from y'all.
Full disclosure, Buzz. I had reached out to him. He was trying to get on here tonight. He couldn't make it, so then I went to you. Just saying.
It's okay. I mean,
that's
if I'm playing second fiddle to Oscar, the Lord has been good to me.
That's yeah, exactly. No disrespect there. Okay, everyone in the chat, appreciate the comments. There's passion tonight in the chat, and there are one or two Arkansas people who happen to get on and give us some recommendations on how to grief our grief. But Mr. Baker, thanks so much.
For it in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks so much for doing this tonight, Buzz.
Coach
Coach Sisk, your first time here too. Yeah, appreciate you.
All right.
Be good. Be good. Everyone, good night. Go Cats. We'll be back next Sunday. Peace out.
Later.